Hello viewers, I am Dr. Shushmita. I am going to examine the young and school-aged child from the head to toes, including nervous system and musculoskeletal system. Let's start with the assessment of skin. Examination of skin is same for children as like adults. Beginning by inspecting and palpating the fingernails, looking especially for any clumping or cyanosis. Next, inspect the skin of the child face and upper torso by noting color pigmentation, texture, hair distribution, and thickness or any common skin conditions in preschool children includes birthmarks, nevy, scars. Look for these and other distinguishing characteristics by noting their placement and their dimensions. Head and face assessment. Tailor your examination of the child's head to their stage of growth and development. Even before touching the child, observe the shape of the head, its symmetry, and the presence of abnormal faces which may not become apparent until later in childhood. So carefully examine the child's facial features, including symmetry. It is often helpful to compare the child face to those of parents to determine whether facial features fit a recognizable syndrome. Some of the diagnostic phases include Down syndrome, fetal alcohol syndrome, perennial allergic rhinitis, and hyperthyroidism.
Examination of eyes.
Examine the child's eye just as you would in adults. Inspect each cornea, iris, and lens. Check the color of the conjunctiva and sclera. The two most important parts of eye examination are test visual acuity in each eye and to determine whether gaze is conjugate and symmetric. Visual acuity may be difficult to measure in children younger than approximately 3 years of age who cannot identify pictures on an eye chart. For children older than 3 years, however, formal visual acuity testing is both feasible and preferred. The examiner may assess visual acuity in broad terms by having the child read letters, numbers, or symbols, or by using an E-chart in which the child is asked to point out which direction the letter E is facing. To test for conjugate gaze or to look for strabismus, you may perform several tests like corneal light reflex test. It consists of simply observing the reflection of light from child's cornea. If you shine a light in front of the child's face and stand about 2 to 3 feet away, the reflection should be symmetrical and visible.
Hello everyone, I am Dr. Anish Kumar. I am doing the assessment of ear and nose. Examining the ear canal and drum can be difficult in young children who are sensitive and fearful because they cannot observe the procedure. Many children need to be restrained during this examination, which is why you may want to leave it for the end.
Best two positions to work from include the lying down and restrained by the parent, child on parent's lap with legs restrained by parent's leg.
To view the tympanic membrane in young children, the auricle must be pulled upward, outward and backward to afford the best observation with the otoscope. A technique preferred by many pediatricians as a way to hold the otoscope. When examination, children hold the child's head with one hand and with that same hand pull on the auricle, with the other hand positioned with the otoscope with the handle pointing downward. Pneumatic otoscope allows you to access the mobility of tympanic membrane as you increase or decrease the pressure in the external auditory canal by squeezing the rubber bulb. Although formal hearing testing is necessary for accurate detection of hearing deficit in your young children. You can grossly test for hearing standing behind the child and have them repeat your whispered words while you cover one of the child's ear canals and rub the tragus using a circular motion. And then ask them not to hear. If he or she reply them same word, then good. Then test other ear. Inspect the nose using a large speculum on Eurodisc cord. Check for the nasal deviation and pollens and note the color and condition of the nasal mucous membrane. Pale, boggy nasal mucous membranes are found in children with suggest chronic perennial allergic rhinitis. Examination of mouth and pharynx. When examining the mouth of young children, you should wear gloves. Ingenuity may be necessary to make the child open his mouth. Here are some tips to encourage the child cooperation. Turn the examination into a game, like saying you breathe like a puppy dog, and don't show the tongue blade unless absolutely necessary. The child who can say ah usually offers a sufficient albert. View of the posterior pharynx, rendering a tongue blade unnecessary. Their mouths so little and encourage them to open even wider. With child mouth open, examine the upper and lower lips. Examine the tongue including the underside. Note the size, position, symmetry and appearance of the tonsils. The peak growth of tonsillar tissue is between 8 and 16 years. Finally, note the quality of the child voice. Certain abnormalities can change the pitch and quality of the voice. Examination of child neck, including the sternomastoid muscle, is the same as that for adults. The vast majority of enlarged lymph nodes in children are due to infections and not malignant disease. Limb adenopathy is common in childhood. Check the neck for mobility. Ensure that the neck is supple and easily mobile in all directions. This is particularly important when the child is holding the head asymmetrically. In children, neutral rigidity is more reliable indicator of meningeal irritation than Brudinsky sign or Kerning sign. Nearly all children with neutral rigidity are extremely sick, irritable, and difficult to examine. Examination of thorax and lungs. In examination of lungs, auscultation usually is easiest when a child barely notices, carefully assess respiration and the pattern of breathing. An important tip is not to rush the stethoscope but rather to first observe the child, carefully assess the relative proportion of time spent on inspiration versus expiration. The normal ratio is 1:1. Prolonged inspirations and expirations are a clue to disease location. For example, prolonged expiration is frequent sign of asthma and lower airway obstruction. Not any effort of work of breathing, including nasal flaring and grunting. Although as children grow, these signs grow less helpful and assessing for respiratory pathology. Palpation, percussion, and auscultation achieved greater importance, and a careful examination of the thorax and lungs. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Bhubidi Rashini and I'm going to explain about examination of heart. But you must use your knowledge of the development stage of each child to make the examination easier and more productive. The children who the stethoscope themselves going back to listen properly. Measure the blood pressure in the right arm if the child is 3 to 4 years old. Measured in both arms and one leg at a time to check for possible correlation of aorta. The most common Stills murmur is a grade 1 to 2/6 musical vibratory. Early and mid systolic murmur with multiple overtones located over the mid or lower sternal bone, but also frequently heard over the carotid arteries. Compression of the carotid artery usually causes the precordial murmur to disappear. The murmur will also diminish as the child goes from supine to sitting to standing. Also in preschool or school-aged children, you may detect a venous hump. The murmur heard in the carotid area or just above the clavicle is known as carotid root. It is early and mid-systole with a slightly harsh quality. It is usually louder on the left and may be heard alone or in combination with Stills murmur. It may also be completely eradicated by carotid artery compression.
Examination of the breast and abdomen. Begin palpating low on the abdomen, moving your hand upward so that you do not miss the edge of the liver or spleen. One method to determine the lower border of the liver involves the scratch test. Place the diaphragm of your stethoscope just above the right costal margin at the mid-clavicular line. With your fingernails, lightly scratch the skin of the abdomen along the mid-clavicular line. Examination of the breast in young children consists of solely of inspection because in both sexes there is little breast tissue. So to examine the abdomen of a young child, have the patient lie supine with knees flexed. Many children are ticklish, so distraction can be important. Chatting with the child can help him relax. A scan placing your whole hand touch on the abdominal surface for a few moments without probing. For particularly sensitive children, Try placing the child's hand under yours. Eventually, you will be able to remove the child's hand and palpate the abdomen freely. So palpate lightly in all areas, then deeply leaving the site of potential. Moving from below the umbilicus toward the costal margin, when your scratching finger reaches the liver's edge, you will hear a change in the scratching sound as it passes through the liver to your stethoscope. The spleen, like the liver, is felt easily. In most children, it is too soft with sharp edge and project downward like a tongue from under the left costal margin. The spleen is movable and rarely extends more than 1 to 2 cm below the costal margin. Pulsations in epigastrium caused by aorta. This is most easily felt to the left of the midline on deep palpation. Examination of male child genitalia.
Begin the examination of male genitalia by inspecting the penis. The size under pre-pubertal children has little significance unless it is abnormally large. In obese boys, the fat pad over the symphysis pubis may obscure the penis. There is an art to palpation of the young male scrotum and the testes because many have an extremely active center. Therefore, examine the male child when he is relaxed because anxiety stimulates the cremasteric reflex. With warm hands, palpate the lower abdomen, working your way downward toward the scrotum along the inguinal canal. A useful technique is to increase intra-abdominal pressure by asking the child to do a sit-up. If you can detect the test as in the scrotum, it is descended even if it spent much time in the inguinal. Examine the inguinal canal as you would for adult, noting any swelling that may reflect on inguinal hernia. Have the boy increase an abdominal pressure and note whether a bulge in the inguinal canal increase.
Examination of female child genitalia.
The female genitalia examination can be anxiety-provoking for child and adolescent, but if not performed, a significant finding may be missed. The examination of external female genitalia is the same for all ages of children. Use a calm, gentle approach, including a developmentally appropriate explanation as you do the examination. A bright light source is essential. Most children can be examined in the supine frog-like position. If the child seems reluctant, it may be helpful to have parents sit on the examination table with the child, or the examination may be performed while the child sits in the parent's lap. Examine the genitalia in an efficient and systematic manner. Inspect the external genitalia for pubic hair, the size of the clitoris, the color, the size of the labia majora, and any rashes, bruises, or other lesions. Next, visualize the structures by separating the labia with your fingers. You can also apply gentle traction by grasping the labia between your thumb and index finger of each hand, separating the labia majora laterally and posteriorly to examine the inner structures. Note the condition of labia minora, urethra, hymen, and proximal vagina. If you are unable to visualize the edges of hymen, ask the child to take deep breath, relax the abdominal muscles. Another useful technique is to position the patient in a knee chest position. Avoid touching the hymen edges because the hymen is very tender without the protective effects of hormones. Examine for discharge, labial adhesions, estrogenization, hymenal variations, and hygiene. The physical examination may reveal signs of sexual abuse and may require more complete evaluation by an expert in the field. Rectal examination is not routine but should be done whenever intra-abdominal, pelvic, or pararectal disease is suspected.
Musculoskeletal examination.
In older children, abnormalities of the upper extremities are rare. In the absence of injury, the normal young child has increased lumbar concavity, decreased thoracic convexity, and often a protrusion. This by watching carefully from both the front and behind as the child stands and walks with barefoot, touches his toes, and runs a short distance to check for scoliosis. Perform the Adams bend test if the child is at least 6 years old. Have the child stand with his bare feet together and bend forward with the knees straight and arms hanging straight down. Look for any asymmetry in positioning. If you detect scoliosis, use a scoliometer to test for the degree of scoliosis.
Examination of nervous system.
A neurological examination of the child includes the basic components evaluated in adult with the addition of developmental examination. The sensory examination can be performed by slightly tickling the child's skin using a cotton ball or a soft object and asking the child to indicate when he feels it. Make sure the child's eyes are closed and don't use a pin because it will scare the child. Observe the child's gait and coordination while child is walking and running. Note any asymmetric weakness and you try tripping or clumsiness. To check for gross motor development and balance, ask the child to balance on one foot and to hop. You might try asking him to walk on his heels if he is old enough to perform this maneuver. If you are concerned about the child's strength, have the child lie on the floor and then stand up and closely observe the stages. With most normal children would first sit up, then flex the knees and extend the arms to the side to push up from floor and stand up. Hand preference is demonstrated by most children by age 2. Hand preference is demonstrated by most children by age 2. Check for weakness and non-preferred upper extremity test. For deep tendon reflexes, as in adults, you can show the child the reflex hammer, treating it like a toy. So he is not frightened. Distract the child or ask him to close his eyes so he does not see the impact of the hammer and provide a false reaction. To check for fine motor development, ask the child to copy an X or square or draw a person which should display several body parts. Then discuss their pictures to test for cognition and language as well. The cerebellar examination can be performed by asking the child to touch your finger and then his nose and by having him perform rapid hand movements. Children older than 5 years old should be able to tell right from left, so you can assign them right-left discrimination tasks as well. The cranial nerves can be accessed using developmentally appropriate strategies. Cranial nerve 1, which mediates sense of smell, is generally not tested in this age. Cranial nerve 2, which mediates vision, is usually assessed in part by testing for visual acuity. Use the Snellen's chart or E-chart. For those children ages 3 years or older, cranial nerve 2 along with cranial nerve 3 controls response to light. You will have tested for this previously during child eye assessment. Cranial nerves 3, 4 and 6, which mediate extraocular movement, can be tested by having the child strike light or an object as in your earlier eye assessment. The motor portion of cranial nerve 5 innervates the muscles of mastication, while the sensory portion mediates facial sensation and the sensory part of the corneal reflex. Cranial nerve 5 may be assessed by having the child smile. Cranial nerve 7 innervates all muscles of facial movement and expression and should be assessed by asking the child to make faces. Cranial nerve 8 mediates hearing and vestibular function and should assess in a formal hearing testing session. Cranial nerve 9 and 10 mediates the sensory and motor functions of the palate, pharynx and larynx. These nerves are accessed by asking the child to stick out his whole tongue and move it back and forth. Cranial nerve 11 innervates the sternocleidomastoid muscle and upper trapezius muscles and is accessed by having the child push your hand away with his head. Cranial nerve 12 mediates motor functions, often affecting articulation of words. To access, observe the child's speaking ability.
Thank you for watching and listening. Thank you.